So my name is Jane Ramseyer Miller, and I am thrilled to be with you here today, exploring in particular transformative community engagement. Many arts organizations are starting to explore themes of social justice, programming concerts, I think sometimes because they want to be more diverse, or maybe they want to be more relevant. So we're seeing a lot of courses connect, and I'm going to talk particularly about choruses, but this is applicable actually, for any kind of arts or music group. Exploring topics like Black Lives Matter, or the Me Too movement, truth-telling among Indigenous communities, really sort of getting into the social change kinds of conversations. But my question is, what does incorporating social justice themes really mean for a chorus? Are we actually connecting to the communities where we live and the communities where that music comes from? So I'm asking these three questions. Are we creating social change if nothing actually changes in our own chorus or our singers? Are we taking on social issues, and is our program balanced with internal education and an openness to transformation, as opposed to just kind of singing some songs that make us feel good? And then rather than asking how can we be more diverse, asking instead where can we get involved in our own community? So two incredibly different questions. So there's this guy named Doug Boswick, and he created this formation for how you can think about arts, both in terms of how you sell tickets, how you do audience development. Then he has this section on community engagement. And this is one of my favorite ones. This is like Community Engagement 101. Get a grant, create a project, find some poor people, tell them why they should get involved, and then be surprised when they don't show up. Now, I don't know about you, but I've seen this happen. It happens all over the place, right? With choirs and arts groups that have really good intentions, but don't really have a sense for how to pull it off. And it looks something like this. Hi, we're doing a concert about racism. Seems like this is an issue that might be important to you, and we want to support you. We'd love to see you at the concert. Here's 100 free tickets. See you there. P.S. Could somebody from your organization speak right before we do the donation ask at the concert? So this is Confessions of a 20-something activist. That's me, actually, not right now. But when I was in my young 20s, I had graduated from college and I was working as a community organizer in North Minneapolis. North Minneapolis is a predominantly African-American neighborhood. I was a very white young person, and I had no clue what I was doing. I also had really good intentions, but I was working for Habitat for Humanity, and my job was to go into neighborhoods and help these neighborhoods build a neighborhood board to support the Habitat houses that were going up. It's a great program, right? Totally believe in it. So I'm meeting with an African-American pastor. We're having coffee, and after about 20 minutes, he says to me, "Why do you white people always try to get us to join what you're doing?" He said, "Why don't you connect and become involved with what we're planning?" And that one conversation actually kind of blew my mind. It completely changed the way that I thought about how I do my work in the world and who I connect with and the questions that I ask when I'm doing my art. Does that make sense? Yeah, really profound moment for me. So over the years, I've created this new model, Transformative Community Engagement. And in this model, all three parts of the collaboration benefit. So the chorus, the collaborative partner, and even the audience or the community benefit from what we're doing. So the goal is to create enthusiasm, learning, and some kind of transformation in those communities. So you remember that first conversation we had with our collaborating partner? This one looks different. This looks like, "Thanks for meeting with me. Tell me about your organization." So the first comment is to listen and ask about the partners that you may be working with. And then to respond by talking about what we're doing and how it connects to our local community, maybe our mission and goals. And then asking the community partner, what would you like us to understand about your community before we ever work together or think about working together? And next, and this is really important, who are the people in your community that can teach and guide us as we're doing this project together? And I just call that your community guides. So making sure as you're doing some kind of collaborative project that you're really asking the people who are experts in their community, maybe with language, maybe with culture, and relying on them. Really important also, asking, do you have an event that I can come to? Maybe I could volunteer, maybe I can just attend and learn something. And then asking your collaborative partner, what do you recommend as next steps? Rather than assuming that I mean, I've been doing this for quite a while now, but rather than assuming that I know what would be a best next step, actually asking my community partner. I'm going to give you a little example. The week after November 2016, when that guy was elected down in the little White House in Washington, I decided that it was really important to do a concert about immigration. And I particularly wanted to do a concert honoring immigrants and the music of immigrants to Minnesota. So we called it Sanctuary. And I looked around the Twin Cities, lots of opportunity for collaboration there, right? And I found this group called Green Card Voices. And Green Card Voices collects stories of youth immigrants, and they put them in books, and they put video stories out in the world, and they have these large panel displays to try to just put them all over Minnesota and help people understand that immigrants are people too, and people to get to know. So we embarked on this conversation with Green Card Voices, and first I met with their staff team and sort of talked about what a collaboration might look like. But then we needed to do some internal exploration as a chorus, right? So the first thing we did was at the very first rehearsal of that season, I told singers I wanted them to go out in their community, at least one community in the next 2 weeks, where they were a minority at a cultural event, a visible minority. Now, LGBT people are used to being minorities, right? But not necessarily visible minorities. So I wanted them to just go to a Somali bar or go to Hmong New Year or something that would immerse them in a different culture. We also held a potluck, just for fun, at a rehearsal, and we had singers cook food from their own cultural communities and share stories with each other. And then I also, because it was important for me as artistic director to do as much background as I could, I attended a bunch of workshops and training sessions on the experiences of refugees and immigrants to Minnesota. So I would have some stories and some statistics to work from. So then I met with the Green Card Voices youth. And I sat down with them and I asked what their goals were for this collaboration. And this is Nima. And she is a Somali immigrant. And she wanted to be involved with us. And so part of their goals, the youth goals for this collaboration, was that they wanted their stories and photographs displayed in the lobby. And this was at the Ordway Concert Hall in St. Paul. So these displays are like this big, and there were probably 20 displays of youth across the lobby. The youth also had their own books, and they signed their books in the lobby, and met and talked to audience members as they arrived. Nima also came in, and she worked with us on the pronunciation for the Somali national anthem. So Minnesota is the second largest, I think the Twin Cities are the second largest communities of Somali people outside of Somalia, right? So it felt really important to me that we were connecting with the Somali community in some way. And I met with Nima, and she helped to teach me the Somali national anthem. So then she came in and worked with our singers and talked about some of the history of the song. So one of my very favorite conducting moments ever was when she came in and shared her story of immigration and also her story of coming out, because she's a lesbian woman, lesbian youth. And then afterward, so we had been practicing on the slide from the recording that she gave us, and she was up front, and I said, okay, do you want to hear us sing? And she said yes. So we all stood up. So this is 125 of my singers stood up and sang the chorus of the national anthem to Nima, of her national anthem. And I just remember her face, like her eyes got really big and she buried her face in her hands. I think it was just one of those moments where she never could have imagined that 125, mostly white people, would actually sing her national anthem to her. So by the time we got to the concert, actually no, I'm going to talk about this later. This is Angel from El Salvador. He worked with us, coached our Spanish pronunciation. He performed a narrative piece as part of the ones as one of the songs in Spanish, and also told his immigration and coming out story as part of the concert. So it's fun to have these two youth really integrated in the concert. We also made sure that one of our concerts was absolutely free, that anyone could attend, and these youth could invite their friends and families and anybody to be a part of us. Lots of other things we did. Now, we're in the Twin Cities, so we have lots of resources, right? But there's also a very large Hmong population in St. Paul. So I worked with a Hmong high school student from one of the schools where we had performed and collaborated, and actually found a piece in Hmong written by another high school student that we performed as part of the concert. We learned a Norwegian folk song and had a local dancer come and teach us the traditional dance. Sharon Day, who was an Ojibwe elder, came in and talked with us about the arrival of her ancestors to this country, and taught us one of the songs that we actually sang in Ojibwe in the concert. We worked with a gay Muslim composer in Toronto. He taught us an Arabic piece that he had written, and he was too far away, but we just Skyped in. You're familiar with that. And he actually coached us on the song and pronunciation. So it's really cool. You have so many opportunities at your fingertips, right? You're getting people to come in and talk with your class, but you also have this access to connect with people in all kinds of ways all across the world. And then finally, the concert program, I put 12 action steps because I wanted people to not just sit there and enjoy this nice music and then leave the concert hall, but I wanted them to read some statistics about immigrants to Minnesota and then actually leave the concert hall with some steps that they could take. And they were simple things from, frequenting restaurants owned by immigrants here in Minnesota to getting to know your neighbors. So just ways to engage the audience when they walk into the theater through the lobby, engage their hearts while we're in the concert program, and then give them something to leave and some way to respond. Make sense? Mm-hmm. Cool. So these are my tips. Tips for transformative engagement. The first one is listen more than you talk. Really, really important. Oh, that was in my speech last time I talked to you, wasn't it? Yeah, the importance of listening. So listen more than you talk. Be willing to give up control. So know that this outcome may be a completely different outcome than you were expecting. So, for example, Nima, the Somali woman, worked with us for a number of weeks, but about 2 weeks before the concert, she came to me and she said, I am not comfortable singing in the concert after all. She was out to her family, but her family was not particularly supportive. And she was really nervous to be on stage in front of that many people and be out. And so I said, absolutely, that makes sense. But here I was stuck because Nima was going to sing the verses and we were going to sing the chorus to the Somali national anthem, right? So what I did instead was I decided, okay, we're going to teach the entire audience the Somali national anthem. And we just focused on the chorus. So we taught it to them, and then they sang it with us with the words projected. And it was another amazing experience because there were Somali people in the audience, and I had them all stand because it was a national anthem and sing along with us. And still today, I have my singers, they'll come up to me at rehearsal and say, oh, I was walking down the street and I met this person and I sang some of the national anthem. So it was just a fun way to connect musically. Know that this would take so much time and advanced planning. So if you think about the difference between just going to the music store or ordering music online and then performing a concert, it's really easy to do. If you go out and you find a Hmong composer and a Hmong coach and then a Somali person to help with this and a Norwegian person to come in and help with dance lessons, right? It takes, takes all kinds of time, but also intentional listening and focusing. Because those relationships have to happen often over a cup of tea or with some food to make sure that you're really connecting and understanding the person that you're meeting with. So I actually created a grid for ways to help plan this kind of a concert, and we're going to go over that when we're done here. Know that you can't do it alone, and make sure that you're always identifying community experts or guides to help you in the planning process. And I already talked about this, but train and educate your chorus before you ever bring your community partner into that space, right? So that you make sure that you're actually serving the right food. You're not serving something that might be offensive to that community, or you're not meeting on a day that might be a sacred holiday for that person or that community. Get involved in events that your collaborative partner is planning. So find ways that you're doing some back and forth and really supporting their work in the community. And then if you feel uncomfortable, I think that's a really great thing. It probably means that you're actually doing something right? It's kind of making you squirm inside. Listen to that and let that lead you into some spaces where you wouldn't usually go. Okay, I think maybe we'll come back to this. I don't know. I'll do it quick. This is performance practice. So, and I know you've talked about this with Tesla, right? So seek out music composed and arranged by individuals who are actually rooted in that culture, in that community, and support them financially. Make sure you're always researching the history and the subtext of any kind of piece that you're working on, so you know where it's coming from and the intention of composing. Plan your score and rehearsal preparation with the same kind of diligence that you would a Western classical score, right? You do a score study. Make sure you're doing that with any kind of music that you're programming. Focus on authentic style, including the unique kind of vocal tone, articulation, phrasing, whatever might be unique to that culture or that music. And be really intentional about who's featured on stage. So you have control. Like me, I don't really have control over who auditions for my choir, but I have control over who I can hire as instrumentalists, who I can bring in as guest artists. So I can think about making sure that my stage is inclusive and that I'm bringing in a good variety of people on that stage. Pitfalls. Lack of internal education and preparation. So again, making sure that you're ready for this collaboration. Another pitfall is performing music from white cultures, from non-white cultures, without bringing in those experts. Be aware of the difference between cultural appreciation and cultural appropriation. So make sure that you're if you're performing music from all kinds of cultural traditions, make sure you've done the research, you understand what you're doing, you're bringing those guides in, and you're doing the music because you love it and you appreciate it, not because you're supposed to, or it's going to make you more diverse or whatever. Does that make sense?